Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast for the next week ahead, recorded on Wednesday the 15th of October. We're halfway through the month already. Let's have a look at the satellite and lightning map this morning. So quite a few thunderstorms around, although a lot of them are in very remote parts of Australia. But we do see thunderstorms and some rain hanging around parts of Queensland, around the top half of the Northern Territory, and then inland areas around Western Australia, mostly around the deserts and the outback. But we do see a thunderstorm outbreak over there. Down around Tasmania, you'll be pleased to know, conditions are easing back a little bit for a time. It's not going to last long, but for a time, not as bad, not as windy, not as wet around parts of Tassie. Let's have a look at the situation. So there are two big high pressure zones on the map. Number one, out over the Tasman Sea. Number two, over the Indian Ocean. In between the two, where you see the darker purple shading, that's lower air pressure. So if this was a topographical map, these are the hills or the mountains, that is the valley sneaking through parts of Western Australia. And it's in that valley where you're most likely to find the rain, the showers, the thunderstorms that we just talked about, which are forming at the moment in some parts, at least in the northern half. So there are a couple of things going on here, but the high over the Tasman, that is the biggest system here, stretching back still to South Australia. And that's where you've got the hotter northerly winds that are starting to build up now. So as we go into Thursday's map, you can see that valley of low pressure around Western Australia producing a few showers and maybe a few thunderstorms in there. The thunderstorm risk mostly in the top half of Western Australia and the top half of the Northern Territory. But in Queensland, the thunderstorm risk is in the southern half of the state, coming through inland areas. So around Charleville, left, right, west, east kind of thing. You might find a few thunderstorms as you go through Thursday. As you come into Queensland, northwesterly winds, warm to hot weather, a few showers around, maybe a couple of isolated thunderstorms in the very north here, nothing too widespread. Dry in the ACT and warm. Dry for most of Victoria. There's only a very slight risk, as is with South Australia, of a couple of showers. Most of the shower risk right over here towards Western Australia. And down around Tasmania, not as cold. Northwesterly winds or westerlies, but you do get a few more showers as we go through Thursday. Now that's ahead of a cold front coming in. So as we go into Friday, it's windier and colder again in Tasmania, wintry conditions, and that polar boundary just comes up and brushes Victoria. Won't be very much. A couple of showers around, winds south to southeast for most of Victoria, maybe a bit southwest in some coastal spots. Then you've got the high pressure zone over South Australia, the one that was in the Indian Ocean, that moves along here. And north of that, as you go into New South Wales, those thunderstorms and showers that were in southern parts of Queensland kind of drop further into New South Wales. The blue on the scale, pretty much 5 millimeters and below. So it may not be a very big rain event for most of you. In fact, quite a lot of dry weather around on Friday. You know, the isolated showers up in the tropical areas where you would expect, but nothing really big or substantial up there, and dries out even further on Saturday. At the same time, the tropical boundary, that gets pulled southwards. For those of you, like I'm not a big fan of most sports, as most of you know, but my family seem to love the tennis. They watch tennis in Melbourne every year. And one of the things you notice when you watch the tennis in Melbourne is some years it can be a cold kind of showery day with only 20 degrees as the high, and other years it can be 45 degrees and blisteringly hot. And it's because of highs like this one. They drift out and they drag down all this heat. And that's what we're seeing over South Australia, parts of Victoria, pulling that tropical energy down towards you. While over here in Western Australia, the next polar boundary is about to come northwards again for you. So moving parts all around at the moment. It's got that kind of spring feel to it. And over here on the eastern side, between high pressure and some of that tropical lower pressure, it's not really a low, but lower pressure, you're finding a few showers in here, maybe a couple of thunderstorms moving into the northeastern quarter, if you like, or northeastern third of New South Wales. Let's go to Sunday. That's where over in Western Australia in comes the wintry change. So the polar boundary comes right up to about Perth, at least Bunbury. So you'll feel the temperatures down in that southwest corner as you go into Sunday afternoon. Heavy showers, southerly winds, cold. You'll feel the temperature noticeably down in that part of Western Australia. If you don't like that, get on the car or the motorbike, go for a long drive, and you'll go further up into the tropical boundary, which is over here on the very southern eastern side of Western Australia. So tropical boundary, polar boundary, temperate in between. And further northwards, a few showers, nothing too much going on. But the tropical boundary really sinks over a lot of Australia by the time you go to Sunday. Now, that's not including the popular East Coast cities like Brisbane and Sydney, and even coming down to Melbourne. They're not inside that area, but it's still a northerly flow or a northwesterly flow. Temperatures are up. Rainfall is down, and in Tasmania, while it's still windy with westerlies, your temperatures also go up a little bit on Sunday. It's also windy on Sunday. Some damaging winds are possible around parts of Tasmania. Doesn't really go up into the mainland, although could be a bit blustery around the hills, the ranges, the southern mountains. But it's Tasmania that's got the risk of power outages and branches damaged. If you've got any branches left to be damaged following the last 4 months, of course, because trees at some point kind of do shed the leaves and the branches that break, and then after that, the wind events don't tend to cause as many issues. Now, as we go into Monday of next week, now the heat being pulled right out into New South Wales. So it'll be a hot day next week as you kick off the week, right across New South Wales, the ACT. Now, further southwards, between the polar boundary and the tropical boundary, you've got the line of convergence where airflows meet up. You've got thunderstorms and showers moving along. This has reduced a wee bit since we looked at this yesterday, but we do have the risk of a few thunderstorms or heavy showers around Victoria on the western half of it, more so than the eastern half, and also around parts of South Australia, including around Adelaide. It fades out as you go all the way back here to Western Australia. So not 100% locked in for everybody. Not everyone will get rain relief. Even northern parts of Victoria look dry as we go into this map here. And the heat, as I say, ahead of it all, while the polar boundary starts to return there around Tasmania, which it does on Tuesday. We got the polar line coming back, a few more showers with a southerly change, temperatures dropping as you go into Tuesday around Victoria and South Australia. There is a southerly flow. I don't know why the animation hasn't worked here, but that's a south to southwesterly flow coming in to that southeast corner. Showers and thunderstorms in the inland parts, and an easterly wind now blowing for those of you around Western Australia while it's dry for many of those of you out in the east. Let's have a look at the rainfall for the next 7 days ahead. So not huge amounts of rain around. For those of you that are like, there are different people that want different things, as I have always known based on my videos in New Zealand. Some of you want rain at the moment in Victoria, others of you don't. Those of you in harvest maybe don't necessarily want it around. So it's not massive rainfall, so maybe not too negative for those of you in harvest, but for those of you that want rain, the rainfall totals are around about 20, 30 millimeters at the highest levels. There could still be some movement of that based on working out precisely where the thunderstorms are, but really around Australia, not looking too wet, not at this stage, but a bit of relief here and there. That is all from me. Thanks for all the comments on YouTube. Programming note, not 100% sure if we have an Australian video out tomorrow, Thursday. We've got a few other things going on behind the scenes. If I can still pull it off, you'll get a bonus. Otherwise, I will see you again on Friday.